Okay, so before we start, I found out a little bit more about what this deal is with Megilas Antiochus. Okay, so I read this morning, as I said, that Mitchell first article, what motivated Antiochus to issue his decrees against the Jews. Just so you know, I'm not going to go through the whole article, but he says that there are three theories about what motivated it. He says one approach views the decrees as motivated primarily by a desire of Antiochus to spread Hellenism or to culturally unify what was perhaps a crumbling empire. Another approach views the leading Hellenistic Jews as the main force behind the issuance of the decrees, meaning it came from, like, as usual, like from the troublemaking Jews, right? Not from him. A third approach views the decrees as primarily a response by Antiochus to a perceived revolt by the Jews. So he goes through the three articles and he favors the third approach. Okay, so if you're interested in that, like, it's a historical article. Also, in case Yosef has any thoughts about, like, well, according to the chronology, so it turns out he is known for being the author of a book called Jewish History and Conflict, a study of the major discrepancy between rabbinic and conventional chronology. So if there are any chronology questions, sounds like he's like a guy to go to, okay? But then the reason why I want to bring this up now is at the very end, he says in his addendum, he says, I have not considered, note on Megilas Antiochus, I have not considered passages from Megilas Antiochus anywhere in the study. There are several important contradictions between this work and 1 and 2 Maccabees, which he also says the first book of Maccabees was written in Hebrew, and the second one was written in Greek, and the first one predates the second one. And he says, and the work is generally viewed as very unreliable, Megilas Antiochus. And he has this footnote where he gives a bunch of inaccuracies in Megilas Antiochus. For example, Megilas Antiochus reports that Antiochus decided to persecute the Jews in the 23rd year of his reign, but Antiochus reigned for only 11 years. Whoops. Megilas Antiochus associates the name Maccabee with Yochanan, son of Mattisyahu, but according to 1 and 2 Maccabees, this name is associated only with Judah. Okay, and he goes on to a bunch of things like that. And then he says, Megilas Antiochus is not referred to in either the Babylonian or Jerusalem Talmud, and most likely was composed in the Gaonic period. In Megilas Antiochus, Antiochus announces to his ministers without any particular provocation that the Jews needed to be eliminated and that the rituals of Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, and Mila must be abolished, which is what we read in the Yad Peshutah footnote. The king's complaint was that the Jews do not sacrifice to his gods or follow his laws and someday hope to rule the world. So he doesn't like that idea. So I just wanted to, like, clarify that in case anyone had any, questions about what historians think. And this is a historian's thoughts. So, okay. So, I want to change the order. We raised 2 questions yesterday, or a couple questions. Yeah, so the question we did answer was why it's Hilchos Megillah v'Chanukah, right? Because we said that the Ikar Takana is days of Hanukkah, right? That the way that the Rambam formulates it, Mipnei hiskinu chachamim she'oso ador sheyihu shmonas hayamim ha'elu shetchilasam milei lechamisha ve'esrim b'kislev yemei simcha v'halel. That because of this, which we found, Yosef and I found a thing in the Yad Peshutah. Hold on. So check this out. So mipnei zeh. So what would you say the mipnei zeh is referring to when he says because of this, then they made the takana?
What we said yesterday. You were saying it's the whole thing.
It's the whole thing, right? That's what we said yesterday. So the Yad Peshutah has a nice thing. He says, Divrei Rabbeinu Kan chozrim al kol ha'amur lamala, kol ha'amur adko. Rambam's words here are referring to everything said above. But then he says, Havi Omer, mipnei hanitzachon kava yemei simcha v'halel, umipnei hahadlaka min hashemen hiskinu shiyu shmona yamim. So because of the victory in the war, they established the days of Simcha and Hallel, but because of the Shemen, they made it 8 days, right? So that's answering a question which we didn't raise because we think it's so obvious, which is why are there 8 days of Hanukkah? But I never thought about it until this year. It could have just done like a Purim thing where, like, you have a victory day and you make that the holiday and that's it. But then Yosef and I theorized or brought up that there are other theories about why Hanukkah is 8 days. You know any of the other theories?
Because it would take 8 days normally for them to get the oil from wherever.
So that is the theory we actually did read yesterday, which is the one that's connected to the oil. But there are theories that say it's not connected to the oil. Anyone? I've heard 2 theories. I don't even know what the sources are.
Oh
yeah.
The Mishkan.
Yes, the Miluim.
Yeah,
right. So that's what I've heard also, is that it was parent after the Miluim, which is the dedication of the Mishkan, which is 8 days. Hanukkah, so the Hanukkah Sabbayis was 14 days. Yeah, I also thought that the Hanukkah Sabbayis was
by Tishrei, no?
That was
They-
it was in Tishrei, and they didn't pass on Yom Kippur. Right? Say again. Do we read the Miluim? We read the Nisim, giving the gifts, right? But we don't read the days of the Miluim.
What did the Miluim have anything to do with Hanukkah?
Because the Miluim was the dedication of the Mishkan, and Hanukkah was the rededication of the Mikdash.
Why is it important?
So it's the same. It's like thematically the same thing.
Why wouldn't it
Oh, is it-
be
yeah,
important?
is it-
It really comes from just thinking about other victories. There's also other stuff like Yom Nickner and Yom Taras, which is like one day things that ceased to exist after Korban. So
Right. So you're saying that they conceivably could have made this one of those?
I mean, isn't like I guess yeah, sort of yeah. I guess in part of that too.
Isn't that important?
Yeah. Right.
I guess the point being is establishing a precedent for one day victory things.
Right. So that strengthens the question, and then this strengthens the answer. Yeah, that's a good point. What were you saying, Chaim?
I don't know.
Well, that's a separate question, which is why wouldn't they model after the Hanukkah bias? But I'm saying that it does stand to reason that it is modeled after, after the sending up of the Mishkan.
Did it happen on the same day? Did the Michigan Miluim start on the 25th of Kislev?
I don't know when the Miluim was. I have to look at
I feel
a
like I have
timeline.
memory of that, but that could just be.
I don't think so. I feel like people would mention that.
I
Yeah,
mean, there is like the Pearson aspect of Hanukkah, and
one day wouldn't be enough.
yeah,
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true. Right. The question is, 8 is a weird number, right? An idea in Purim on having many days.
No, I'm saying
Pearson.
Right. That's also true. Right.
No, I'm saying maybe one day wouldn't enough.
Right. That's true. Yeah, that's true. Is that
I'm saying Megillah.
we do say that. We don't call it Pirsum Hanes in terms of like in the halachas, but I think that's why we say the bracha of Sha'asa Nisim Lavzina B'Yimim. But wait,
Calvinism?
all Nisim. No. That's there's no. We do. Yeah, but we say. Don't we say what's the bracha? Hakel haravas rivenu. The bracha after the Megillah. No, don't we say? Hold on a second. We also say Sha'asa Nisim Lavzina B'Yimim Hazman Azat. That's what I was thinking of. We say that on Megillah, which is a bracha on Pearson, I think they say.
Are there any other halachas that are like codified within Purim of Pearson? Specifically
so-
to do it.
Technically speaking, then all of the mitzvos of Purim stem from Pirsum, but they don't all have that character,
Okay.
right? But yeah, I mean, that's the other thing I'm not sure about, like what aspects of Purim are Pirsum, like halachically, and how much of it is just philosophically. But yeah, so that was just a nuance that we didn't get last time. Then I want to, before we tackle the other questions, I think this would be a good time to read the Rambam's Al Hanisim. Because that's the Rambam's other account of, it's not just the Rambam, but the other account of the thing that, the stuff that happened. So first thing to note is that, the Nusach Ashkenaz has the same intro for Purim and Hanukkah, but the Rambam has different intros, right? So, yeah. So he says, B'Purim Mevarach Bracha Shmona Esar B'Nusach Zeh. Modi Manachnu Lach Shatahu Hashem Elokeinu Tzurchein Meginishenu Atahu Ledor V'Dor Nadalachan Tavir Dilasacha Alchein Amzim Yadachav Al Nishmasem V'Dos Lach Al Nisachas B'Chol V'Yom Al Niflosachas B'Chol Is V'Is. All right. So for Purim now. Al Hanisim on the miracles, Val HaGvuros, and on the mighty acts, Val HaTeshuos, and on the salvations. Sha'asisa Iman V'Ima V'Seinu V'Imim Hem V'Zman Hazeh. Okay, 3 things. But on Hanukkah, he says, Modim Nachnu Lach, etc. Al Hanisim on the miracles, Val HaGvuros, and on the might, Val HaMilchamos, and on the war, Val HaTeshuos, and on the salvations, Val HaPedus, and on the redemption, Val HaPurkan, and on the other word for redemption. So there's more words for Hanukkah than for Purim. Okay, and the question is like, what are those? There's double.
I mean,
Oh, that would be nice.
Almost makes sense.
Okay, right. Milchamos is the only one that makes sense to me because on Purim it was really a licensed slaughter. It wasn't really a war, right? Like it's not like 2 armies going together to wage war. So Milchama makes sense.
What
Yeah.
are the different terms of redemption?
Yeah, so Padus and Purkan so Padus is Hebrew. I think Purkan is Aramaic. Right. So I don't know what the connotation is. I think Purkan though is in Aramaic is related to Hebrew of porek, like to cast off a yoke. That's what my assumption has been. Whereas Padus, redemption, is more like elevating a thing to like Pidyon Haben, right? You're not taking a yoke off its neck. You're redeeming, or let's say like at the end of the bracha on Magid, al Padus nafshenu, the redemption of our souls. Like it's like bringing something to a higher status. Yeah.
So there's like a positive and negative aspect of redeeming, like it's positive, like you gaining the sun. So
Yeah.
Also like the redeeming of like casting something inside.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So in terms of default kavana, without researching the origins, I think those are two good things here. So just to state them. So the nisim is obviously the miracles, right? Gevuros sounds like so that's used for both of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, so
I thought that the rules meant like, well, I guess it would say Giborim, right?
Yeah.
I just imagine that it was going on the nisim, like the great miracle.
I think I also thought that because I thought that Gevuros was like mighty acts of God that like override nature or whatever. Yeah, it's a separate thing. What? About Purim? Nisim val Gevuros val Teshuos. That's it. Yeah. I'm wondering if you could say, and this is total speculation. The real way you have to do this is look at the Mefarshim on this, but that if Nisim could be referring to the phenomenon of, because nace, what nace literally means? I mean, I know we say it's a miracle. A sign, right? Or a flagpole, right? So nace could be referring to the significance of the hashgachic intervention, whereas the Gevuros could refer to the hashgachic intervention itself. Gevura meaning God overpowering nature, so to speak, and then the nace is like the fact that this indicates God's control of reality, or like all the stuff like by Pesach or something like that. Teshua is salvation, that's clear. Saved from harm. Milchamos clear, right? Padus is this elevated state that we got, like in this case would be the fact that we could do the avoda, which in Purim also makes sense. There was no Padus in Purim, right? It's not like we were now allowed to do things for our avodas Hashem, that our lives were saved, not to minimize that. But here there is an aspect of Padus, which is that we could be involved in avoda again. And then Purkan is a casting off of the yoke of the Greek monarchy, which in Achashverosh was not good. Oh, that actually works out then.
I think it works out well.
Yeah, that's nice. I never, even though I've thought about this question many times, I've never actually gone through and tried to like work it out. Okay.
They don't overthrow like I guess they don't overthrow the kingdom of Achashverosh.
No, not at all.
They just turn it.
No, not even that. They just get rid of the threat, and then Mordecai gets promoted. Yeah, right. Yeah, and then the very last pasuk is that Achashverosh put. What was that?
Isn't that kingdom something that?
Wasn't that already done by that point? Like, doesn't Hannah Koresh already let them go back?
Yes, the Koresh thing I think happened before this. But the thing is that one of the reasons given why we don't say Hallel on Purim, there's three reasons given, right? The Rambam says we don't say Hallel on Purim because, one is that the Kriyas of Megillah is the Hallel, right? The Gemara says,
Like I said, we're still avadim.
Right. So the one that I was going to refer to now is that we're still akati avad avde Achashverosh hayu. We were still servants to Achashverosh, whereas you don't say that in the same sense by Hanukkah because we did have a malchus, And then the third reason is because nisim that happen outside of Eretz Yisrael you don't say halal on. That's the other reason in the Gemara. But I'm bringing in the second reason that Yosef mentioned because there was no Purkan by Achashverosh.
I was gonna say not to get into the whole circus. I mean, not to get into the whole.
That's a good question. Yeah, right. Yeah. I think it could be though that
What's the question?
I think the Gemara says we don't say Hala on Nisim that occurred outside of Eretz Israel. I could be misquoting
Yeah,
that.
no,
Yeah, right. But then they're saying the Midbar was also outside of Israel. Right. Right. Yeah, you could also make an argument maybe for Pesach we were going into Israel. You would assume that the Gemara takes it up.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I feel like a profile is like yeah, I remember I want you to think about it. That that halacha that we always have in Israel once they have when looking out, coming out and like and then it's on the nation.
I sorry, I didn't catch that first part. Say it again.
The halacha that we only can have on nation in Israel only comes out after
After we conquered it, right? Okay, right. So all the stuff, all the miracles that happened beforehand are worthy of saying halal on. Yeah.
So I think what just we have to say halal of things that are happening within the land of Israel, which is early defined by the nations and the people of Israel.
Right.
And then one so happens the people settle land and then the land becomes
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, and let's just quickly go through the rest of the Al Anisim just to note things. There are going to be a lot of small changes, but then one big one I want to highlight. During the days of Matisia, the son of Yochanan the Kohen Gadol. Yeah. Yeah. Or Matatia. I don't know how to pronounce it. Right. I mean, that's a common thing though, right? Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu.
I assume it's
the same names.
I assume it's just like there's my sources there's some pronunciation change.
Yeah.
It was just like as they both the way of saying it is different way. It's just like saying Shakespeare, you spell his name 3 different ways.
That could be, or it could be one of those like inefficient nicknames where like they cut off like a very small, like a lot of nicknames like really shorten it. Then there's like certain examples of nicknames that I heard, I don't know if this was like a one-time thing, but I used to hear Aaron Freeman from Rambam refer to his older brother Menachem as Menach, which is like, just like okay, one little syllable, So I don't really know what it is. Anyway, so Chashmonai Ubanav and his sons, Kishamda Malchus Yavan Harasha'a, when the evil Malchus Yavan arose, Al Amcha Beis Yisrael, over your people, the house of Israel, Levatla Mitorasacha, to negate them from your Torah, and to remove them from the statutes of your favor. You in your mercy, in your great mercies, stood up for them at the time of their tzara. Vedanta estinam, you took up their cause. You judged their case. V'ravta esrimam, you took up their cause. V'nakamta esminikumasam, and you took vengeance on their behalf. Umasarta giburim biyad chalashim, you put the strong into the hands of the weak. V'rabim biyad me'atim, and the many into the hands of the few. Utmeim biyad tahorim, and the impure into the hands of the pure. Urushaim biyad tzadikim, and the wicked into the hands of tzadikim. Uposhim biyad osei sorsacha, and the rebels or intentional sinners into the hands of those who do your Torah. V'asisa l'chashem gadol ba'olamecha, and you made a great name for yourself in your world. Ulamcha Yisrael asisa pelav nisim, and for your people Israel, you did wonders and miracles. And then here's the part I want to highlight: Kishem asisa imahem nisim uvuros, just like you did for them miracles and mighty acts. Kach ase imano nisim uvuros be'ezavona hazos. So to do for us miracles and mighty acts at this time and at this season. So I gave a whole shir on this, but I just want to show you that the that bakasha. So this year was on the on that bakasha that the hold on just a second here. Okay, the Rishonim who have that bakasha are the Machzor Bitri, the Gudraham, the Ribar Yakar, the Rokeach, the Kolbo, the Rashba, the Meiri, and then in the Nuschaos, Yemen, Persia, Aram Tova, Roma, Castilia, Old France. All of these Nuschaos have it. Okay, and the Shulchan Aruch has it, and the Ramah has it, and the Mishnah Brura has it, and the Shulchan. Sorry, not that they have it. The Shulchan Aruch says you should say it if you want. The Ramah says say it if you want. The Mishnah Brura says say it if you want, and the Aruch Shulchan says say it if you want, and we do say it. The only people who don't have it are the Sefer HaManhig, the Maharam Rotenberg, and a Tosfos. And they give reasons. Well, I gave a whole share on this, but the point is that if you haven't heard of this before, it's because the Ashkenazim don't have it. Yet all the Ashkenazic poskim that we have say that you can say it if you want, and that it's a good thing to say it. So it's one of these things where, like, by definition, this is not me poskening, but like our poskim say that like it's a good thing to say. And this year was me saying why we should say it. But I'll leave that to.
Why isn't it?
That's also part of this year. Also, is they give different reasons. They give reasons. You have to listen to the share for that. Yeah. All right. Yep. Okay. So tomorrow, let's just try to. I forgot to look into that whole Tuma thing that I mentioned yesterday about like couldn't they have lit the menorah if everything was Tame?
Oh, I think I might want to think that applies to the album, not the.
Not to the objects. Okay. Interesting. All right. I'll have to look at that. Okay.
I mean, I'm technically, but
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense.
Okay.